So recently a number of people have asked me how I set up my shrimp breeding tanks. So in this video I'm going to show you how I set up this basic breeding tank for red cherry shrimp. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Richard and I'm a fish and shrimp keeper based in the UK.
So here I have a simple glass aquarium. You may notice it's a slightly odd tank, and the truth is I made it myself from scrap glass that a friend gave me. In fact, the glass was originally sliding doors on a wooden cabinet. I have another video coming out soon showing how scrap glass can be converted into aquariums at a fraction of the cost of buying new glass. The tank measures roughly 17 inches by 11 inches by 11 inches, which is about 43 centimeters by 28 by 28. This gives me around 8.5 gallons or 33 litres. In my experience, anything from 5 gallons to 20 gallons is about right for a shrimp breeding tank. For substrate, I'm using regular gravel. The gravel is recycled from another tank. Whenever I break down a tank, I save as much of the old hardscape as possible. You can always reuse it somewhere further down the line. I'm adding a layer of about 1 inch, which is 2.5 centimeters deep. I know a lot of shrimp keepers like to use active substrates like fluval stratum in their shrimp tanks, and I do too use stratum in many of my display tanks. But in breeding tanks, however, I tend to just use regular gravel. Once the gravel's in, I add a couple of flat rocks. These rocks are not so much for decoration, but more for surface area on which hopefully algae will grow. Algae, or at least the resulting biofilm growing on the algae, is an amazing food source for shrimp, especially baby shrimp. One top tip here is never remove the algae from the back or sides of a shrimp breeding tank. Whilst we don't want our shrimp display tanks to be an algae covered mess, breeding tanks are a different matter. Breeding tanks are all about producing baby shrimp, and algae is good for baby shrimp. I'm adding a hang-on back filter to this tank. A sponge filter would work equally well, but in this case, I wanted to use a hang-on back filter to demonstrate how important it is to add an intake sponge to the intake of a hang-on back or canister filter. I firmly believe hang-on back filters and canister filters are one of the biggest killers of baby shrimp. The intakes do have a strainer, but that strainer is designed to prevent fish from being sucked in. It will do nothing to protect your shrimp. If you're wondering why your shrimp aren't breeding, and you're running a hang-on back or a canister filter without an intake sponge, you may well find your shrimp are breeding, but the babies are being drawn into the filter. Adding an intake sponge prevents them being sucked up. I should also point out, I used a hang-on back filter because I had one. I'm a firm believer in using what you have rather than keep buying new. Anyone who's joined my course, How to Make $500 a Month Breeding Shrimp, will know I'm a firm believer in spending as little as possible when it comes to breeding tanks. I'll add a link to the course in the description below for anyone who might be interested in generating income from their shrimp tanks. I've also added a small heater to this tank. I have on many occasions spoken and written about how, in my experience, Neocaridina shrimp do not need a heater. But to achieve maximum breeding, the shrimp should be kept at the optimum temperature of between 72 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius. A small heater is the best way to achieve this temperature. Shrimp will breed at lower temperatures, but for maximum production, I'm adding a heater. So now the breeding tank is basically set up, I'm going to fill it with water. Foolishly, I started recording this video whilst my hose was in action water changing another tank, so it's the slow job of filling up with the jug on this occasion. My tap water comes out at a pH of about 7.6, and we have hard water, meaning there are a lot of dissolved minerals in it such as calcium or magnesium. My tap water also comes out with around 40 ppm nitrates. You would be amazed how often people comment on my videos or message me to let me know my tap water can't possibly have 40 ppm nitrates because all my fish and shrimp would be dead. I don't know what I can tell you. It does, and they're all doing fine. Once the tank is full, I prime the filter and turn it on. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, whilst the tank is cycling, I'll leave the filter running on full power, but before adding the shrimp, I'll reduce it down to its lowest flow setting. Next, I add a small clump of Java moss and a single catappa leaf. The Java moss will provide the ideal growing place for biofilm, which, as mentioned previously, is an ideal food for growing shrimp. I use Java moss in every single one of my breeding tanks for two reasons. One, because of the biofilm that grows in it, but two, because it reproduces so quickly and is so desirable to other fish and shrimp keepers, I can sell my excess moss. This means a single shrimp breeding tank can easily produce two different revenue streams. I'll come back to making money from your shrimp tanks in another video, so if you aren't already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future fish and shrimp breeding videos. I add the catappa leaf because it is yet another amazing food source for shrimp. Whilst they don't actually eat the leaf itself, they do dine on the bacteria that is breaking down the leaf. Again, I add 1 or 2 catappa leaves to each of my breeding tanks. So that is essentially it, an 8.5 gallon shrimp breeding tank. I will now leave this tank to cycle for 2 to 3 weeks at least. Once I'm confident the tank is ready, I will add the shrimp and then leave them to make themselves at home. Hopefully within 1 to 2 months, I will start to see the colony grow. All I will do is feed the shrimp every other day and carry out partial water changes as and when required. In fact, I'm going to use this tank in a new series I'm filming. I've set myself a challenge. How many shrimp can I breed in just 100 days? Keep an eye out for that video because I think the results will be surprising. If you want to know more about how to go about breeding a large shrimp colony, check out the video linked on screen. Thanks for watching.